this week I have felt so connected to love. And of course, I'm quoting astronaut Katy Perry.
Astronaut first.
Astronaut and former musician Katy Perry, who I think was the first, as I was led to believe by the marketing campaign, the first woman to go to space this week. And along with Gayle King, Lauren Sanchez.
Oprah's best friend. Oprah's best friend, Lauren Sanchez.
Lauren Sanchez, who is Bezos's fiance, Jeff Bezos. Yep. Some of you may remember from the .com boom. He used to sell books on the internet. and he's done okay. And some nameless others who are actual female astronauts who we don't have to worry about. And of course, they went up for 10 or 11 glorious minutes into the upper atmosphere. And I think it was a real let them eat space moment for us here on Earth, and a real cultural watershed moment. So that's been taking up a lot of my headspace, if you will, in the last couple of days. And I guess it's made me rethink just the fragility of human life on this little blue and green marble that we call home. So thank you again, celebrities.
It's made me think of the fragility of human order, and as we lean more and more into a kind of chaos. So it was a Blue Origin flight. Blue Origin being Jeff Bezos's space tourism company, and it was a publicity stunt / marketing exercise, I suppose. So Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin, which has been sending people up to space. I hadn't really been paying a lot of attention until this week, but other space people have been going up, other sort of celebrities and space adjacent people have been going up there as well. I think that I saw, what's his name? Star Trek man went up there last year as well.
Billy Shatner went up there.
Was it Will Shatner or was it the other one?
No, William Shatner definitely did go to space. Along with Bezos himself, I think. And
you're right. It was. It was fucking Shatner.
It was. And he said basically, it was interesting because everyone likes to say things about how beautiful it is and whatever. And Shatner was just like, I felt a real sense of like how alone we are in the universe and how empty everything is except for Earth. And I felt like this real longing to just get back to Earth, which I think is probably quite relatable. But, of course, no one else can say that. And I mean, maybe we'll get into some of the interviews that took place where they landed with Gayle and Katy and the girls.
Without looking.
Because I think
just gonna say
Katy said some very deeply kind of Katy Perry sort of LA things, and I loved that.
LA Space would be a great name for a band. LA in Space.
Yeah, the quote that I started with is the first thing she said. The interviewer said, "How do you feel?" And she said, "I feel deeply connected to love. I feel so connected to love." And she went on to say basically that you can never know the love that's inside you and the love that you have to give until the day you launch, which is bad news for 99.9% of the human population because they'll just live in ignorance, I guess.
I've been waiting my whole life to love, but I don't have the $150,000 that it costs as a down payment on a Blue Origin flight. So
exactly. Next time you have to let someone down easy, you say, "Look, it's not you. I just have never been to space, so I don't know how to take this relationship any further."
Yeah, I didn't actually know a lot about. I kind of knew that Blue Origin was Bezos's thing, but for some reason I had assumed that maybe it was connected to some other type of scientific space exploration in the way that SpaceX is, I suppose, but it seems, from what I understand, the goal of Blue Origin is explicitly space tourism. So they were up there for the female celebrities, the powerful women were up there for 11 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's what you get. You get 11 minutes. And it's $150,000 for a down payment. You can go on the website now on Blue Origin, and they say that, as far as I'm aware, it's not at a point yet where they're doing scheduled flights for normies. It's just like celebrity marketing at the moment. But this is the idea, is that, eventually you pay $150K and you get to say you've gone to you get to say you've gone to space, even though you don't really get much more of it. You get 11. It reminds me very much of when you pay insane eye-watering amounts of money to go and see a Bob Dylan concert now, where you don't really get the experience. You just get to tell people. You get to tell people that you saw Bob Dylan live. That's what you're paying.
Like in Greenwich Village in the 60s, you're just getting
a
silhouette of a very old man who hates being there. But
and then you get to tell people at the dinner party for the rest of your life that you saw Bob Dylan live.
Totally. On his endless tour. And it is like that, isn't it? Because I don't know, I was watching the footage of them up there, and aside from just the insufferable kind of live commentary that they were doing, which again we might get into, but I just thought, this doesn't look that great, to be honest. Like, if you go to the moon, fuck yeah, that would blow my mind. But basically what this is you're just very high up on the edge of the atmosphere. The Earth looks pretty much as you'd expect. And you can see space, I guess, more clearly than usual. But I mean, for 150 grand, I don't think so.
You don't get the blue marble effect.
No,
you get a little bit of cresting. You get a bit of cresting Earth. You get to go, oh yeah, it seems to curve a little bit. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I guess. I was
talking to DPTM Harley earlier about it, and he was saying, if it were him doing it, he would just, for the rest of time, kind of bring it up at every social occasion. Like you'd put a pen down, and then it would drop, and you'd go, oh damn, that's right, gravity. Old habits die hard after you're like 11 minutes in space.
Somebody at the dinner party, somebody puts the meal down, and you're just sort of staring down at it going, sorry, I'm so used to eating out of tubes that this is just
exactly.
I've almost forgotten how to use a knife and fork.
Yeah, that's right. Or just start staring into space, and people go, "You right there, Alan?" You go, "Yeah, sorry, I was just back there for a minute." It happens. It just happens. Touches you.
I loved that. So this is a very death of culture moment. I wonder what I always wonder with things like this is how calculated it is. Did the powerful women know that there would be a backlash?
Yeah.
As there has been. Is Jeff Bezos and the Blue Origin marketing team so out of touch that they knew that this would largely be, I think it's fair to say that it's largely been very poorly received by us down here on Earth.
Absolutely.
But then at the same time, I kind of think like Bezos is so Machiavellian. I kind of expect that he probably just was like, I bet that he knew and they didn't. And and what I also love is the fact that one of them's even his fiance, and he even knew, and he was just like, he doesn't give a fuck. He's just like, this is gonna be. His fiance is just like, Jeff, I can't believe I'm gonna go to space. Everybody's gonna love me. And he's like, that's right, baby. They're gonna love you so much. You're gonna be a star. Just him going. They are going to absolutely tear you mercilessly apart. But it is going to be the most free publicity for Blue Origin. Yeah. I mean, I say, I didn't even know that it was going to be a space tourism thing until this week. No. So does it, and the kind of people that are going to end up paying $150,000 to go to space are not the type of people who are going to care that a bunch of rich celebrities got shot to space and are outraged about it, because they themselves will likely be swimming in those kinds of circles. So,
and they'll be like, the fact that this offends normal people only makes me want to do it more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they were genuinely shocked. I saw an interview with Gayle King, aka Oprah's BFF, who was reacting to the reaction. And she was saying how she was very disappointed and it made her very sad, and how, she didn't want people to forget that this was a really kind of important example for women and girls about what they could achieve, which I do not understand, because that was obviously that was how it was framed initially. They famously said, well, it's a bit premature to say famously perhaps, but they, in the kind of clip that circulated, they said 3, 2, 1, taking up space. And so so it was kind of pitched as this, let's break glass ceilings, even though there are clearly women astronauts, one of whom just got back from being in space for about 9 months on the space station. But these people were up there for 11 minutes and said, this is a huge kind of step forward for super rich people who are relying on the largesse of tech billionaires. And so Gayle said, I've had a lot of people say to me, this was really like important to them, women and girls and men too, saying, I didn't think that this was, she said, I didn't think that this was ever something I could do, but if you could do it. And I thought, what's that mean? You're like, what? You're like an ordinary person? Like maybe she was at some point 40 years ago, but she's been in the kind of Oprah sphere for as long as I've been alive.
And ever since I was a little girl, I could never imagine that I would be Oprah's best friend, and that would allow me to ride on her coattails and eventually go to space.
Exactly.
Anybody, little girls all over the world can now realize they can dream of being Oprah's best friend.
And meanwhile, Katy, as soon as she got back, she said that it was hard for her to go because she had to entrust herself to the universe, which is a classic bit of a kind of inversion of privilege. Like, actually what I'm doing is difficult. And she said she wanted to model courage and fearlessness for her daughter. And she said she couldn't recommend the experience more, which I love, because it's like, do you think the rest of us are on the fence about like going to space? Like, we're like, nah, I don't think it's worth it.
That's why we haven't gone.
Exactly.
The reason we haven't gone yet is because we're petrified.
Yeah. I said to Cynthia the other day, I've got 4 weeks off in July. Do you want to go to Bali or space? And she said, we're making space for future women. And she finished by saying, this is all for the benefit of Earth, which I loved because just the level of delusion involved in saying that is quite extraordinary. And I wonder, I put myself in Orlando Bloom's shoes when I heard that interview, and I thought, I wonder if he's going, man, what have I done? Or if he thinks this is great, love it.
The thing is with elites, and particularly if you take somebody like Katy, Katy has to play the women are oppressed role, and that has to be her narrative, because if you take that away from her, then she's just a wealthy white person. She doesn't have the race thing. Like Gayle could go, I guess women can do everything now, but I'm a black person, and so I'm the first black person in space. Whereas Katy doesn't have that, and some of the other women up there who are also white. Because it's funny, the female in space thing, I just was like, I feel like I've been seeing women astronauts for as long as I've been alive. It was never a thing that I thought, what's exclusively the domain of men? Space. Yeah. Because I'm like, why would that be? Like, why would it be the case that space, you could argue that maybe like,
I think
if you were
science
putting
careers are
together,
kind of quite masculine, but I agree. Like I've never not seen women in space, and they had to say, "Oh, it was the first female only space crew in 60 years." And I thought, well, that kind of just demonstrates that it's actually not that big a thing because someone did it in 1965. So
that's right. Like, what if, but thought exercise, what if you said to Katy Perry, like it's not this is not a thing anymore. Like this being a glass ceiling that needs to be broken for women, that's not a thing anymore. Women are able to go to space. So why else did you go?
Yeah.
Go, and then
It's true.
because she needs, if you look at all of her recent music, she's been getting slated in the media for the last couple of years because of how irrelevant and out of touch she's become. In particular, she released an album last year that not only did nobody like, but it was the whole album was like, the first single was called like "Women Are Amazing" or "Get Ready for Girls" or something. But then.
You're gonna love them.
But then people just saw it as incredibly cynical because like all but one track on the album was like produced or co-produced by this fellow called Dr. Luke, who was accused by Kesha of sexually abusing her or some sort of sexual misconduct. And so it was like Katy Perry was on one hand going, women are awesome, but then at the same time going, but I need this guy who's been accused of inappropriate things to women. He's a hit maker. Yeah. So just don't look at that because it's like I'm out there, girl power, California girls are undeniable.
Yeah. Thanks Dr. Pervert for writing all my songs.
Yeah. And, so everybody just said, wow, you're dreadful. And it was interesting seeing them come back from space and just, I think how many other women are getting tired, like on TikTok again is where a lot of, more real discussion is happening. Just how tired I think smart women are becoming of being told that like celebrities are going to tell you how hard it is for women to do things. And then when celebrity female elites do things, it's your job as a woman to applaud them and go, yeah, badass bitches are absolutely up there in space. And it's like, maybe somebody should have said to Katy Perry, how many women are graduating from college in the US at the moment versus men? Like the world is changing and you can't just keep falling back on, like the everything's extremely difficult for women, and so all women need to celebrate celebrity elite women who get up on the Oscars stage and say,
just the fact that you're a woman is enough. It doesn't matter how many kind of if you add other kind of intersectional aspects of your identity, they're all hyper privileged, but you've got this thing that you can rely on. And also I'd like to say to Katy Perry, like, how many female astronauts can you name? Like, if you're so into it, well, there's been women who have been doing this, including women who went on the flight with them. But, there's been women doing this for decades, as I say, one of them being one of the duo who was famously stranded in the International Space Station recently. But, like, nobody knows who that is. And part of the reason they don't know who it is, as in they, people who are into it might, but she's not a household name, is because she's not, the first woman to do it. She's not even the fifth woman to do it. Like it's it's not that big a thing. And she's just kind of an astronaut and good on her. And Katie doesn't know who that is and has never given two shits about it. But when a billionaire mate taps her on the shoulder, she's happy to go up there. And I don't know what the future holds for her.
Go to war, Katie. Go to war and then come back and say, I've really broken that glass ceiling because I had to go to Fallujah and raid a bunch of villages while people shot at me and there was like IEDs going off all around me and I lost one of my limbs. And then I'd be like, yeah, good on you, Katie.
Right, fair enough. Yeah, now you're doing something. Yeah, I mean, look, the response has been resoundingly negative. There was a comedian I follow, Katy Caitlin Riley on Instagram, who kind of did this hilarious clip that went viral, which was basically how this 6-woman space crew thought we were going to react. I thought everyone was going to react, and it was all just like, it was all just like, "You're badass bitches going to space, yeah." And it's like, this kind of, this. It's such a kind of such a kind of basic sort of cynical. Oh, well, everyone's going to just tell you what a bunch of girl bosses you are and how inspired they are by you. And I mean, it comes back to that thing that ungracious celebrities often have of sort of expecting people to worship them, basically. And it's a great example of that, and a particularly well-timed example because, as we've often talked about, there's this kind of, it's just a lovely thing it's a lovely cultural moment against this backdrop of, sort of growing angst and concern about the inequality of wealth and the fact that, billionaires are wielding huge amounts of government influence and so on, for these rich people to go, "Oh yeah, we're breaking glass ceilings by doing something that is completely inaccessible to almost everyone on earth."
It's the classic. It's
You're
the
welcome,
classic,
everyone.
it's a classic celebrity thing where they just go, don't look at class, look at gender, look at race, don't look at my bank account, look between my legs or look at the color of my skin because I'm, and then you can't be accused of being a privileged elite person, which is obviously, like, again, what's gone on here. Because if you said to Katy, if you said to Gayle, if you said to anybody, like, hey, you just don't, guys, we've heard from the marketing team and they've said they don't want you to say anything about this being progressive for women. So you need to find a different angle. And then, like, oh my God, would the panic set in? Particularly if they set up just white women and they said, "Hey, white women, you're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to say anything about this being about women breaking glass ceilings." And they would just go, "Well, they're going to be real with pitchforks at the end of this if we don't give them something." If I'm just Katy Perry who did an album with Dr. Luke, I'm on thin ice here.
That's right. She would say, "Look, I've been through stuff. Like last year, Orlando and I threw a party and we ran out of rhino steaks halfway through the party. It was really humiliating."
Man, fucking, that makes you think less of somebody like Orlando Bland as well, doesn't it? That was what Mark Kermode, the film reviewer, always used to call him, because he just always thought that his performance was so terrible and everything. He used to call him Orlando Bland. Because Orlando seems like, sometimes I see him and I go, "Oh, seems like a cool guy." But then I remember that he married Katy Perry. I'm just like,
and before that, he was with Miranda Kerr, who also didn't seem and doesn't seem like she's got that much going on intellectually. So, and I'm sorry if that's unfair. I haven't met her.
Orlando.
But his track record isn't great. I loved you in Legolas, and I'll always remember that. I
haven't thought about
you made a lot of.
Just hadn't thought. Go on.
Just gonna say he made life a lot easier for the world elves because he was a positive role model.
I hadn't thought about Miranda Kerr in a long time, and I'm just gonna send her to you here. Just this is a little bit off topic, but I just looked her up. She's married to Snapchat whiz kid Evan Spiegel. Oh, is that right?
So she used to be married to Orlando Blonde, and then he said, "I'm not going to put on the elf ears every time we do it. You have to just like me for who I am." She said, "No, can't." And Evan agreed to use the elf ears, and she liked that. But yeah, I don't really know what he does. I know that he was a kind of precocious tech innovator, and obviously was the brain behind Snapchat. But I mean, what, did people still use Snapchat? I don't know.
Yeah, kids. Yeah, I never did. Kids who got into it when they were kids, I think the kids still love it apparently. But I've never had it on my phone. Have a look at the photo that I just sent you of Miranda there, John. Miranda Kerr, because I hadn't thought about it for a while. Can you see on WhatsApp?
Yep. Yeah. What do you want me to say
Is she
about
there?
it? She's there. Yeah.
She's definitely had fillers shot into her face.
Yeah,
She used to have
she's-
a very gaunt, she was famous for a gaunt model face.
Mm,
And she's terrified that she's lost volume and aging. And so
Now
she's
she's got-
either
she's swelled up.
So that's my guess. I could be I'm going to say allegedly. Don't sue us, Miranda. But
Yeah, I mean,
looks like
I think she's pretty genetically
you've
gifted,
you've
but
got
I do think
you've got wealthy Russian bride face.
she does.
Suddenly.
Yeah, she's on her way to looking like she's in GoldenEye, like that sort of polygon head.
N64 Golden. I have a couple of quotes from the space launch, John. Katy Perry said, like you said, she said, "I feel super connected to love. I think this experience has shown me how much love is inside of me." I guess that's the other thing you could have done. If you said to Katy, you can't talk about being a woman, then she might have just said, okay, I'll just talk about how how this has allowed me to share love with the world. What she also did, which again, like when the masses come for the elites with pitchforks and torches and they write the history books about it, they'll write things like this, and the kids reading it at school just won't ever believe that they did this, because they'll just go, that can't have happened. That's just like so insane.
Yeah.
Katy Perry, I don't know if you've watched any of the 11 minutes of footage, but Katy Perry spent while the crest of the earth was behind her, just floating in the infinite. She spent what seems like most of the time looking at the onboard, directly into the onboard cameras of the space shuttle. And she was holding up like a daisy, which apparently was a tribute to her daughter, Daisy.
And also because she thinks that flowers are God's laughter. I've heard her say that in about 3 different interviews.
So the earth is just floating behind her in eternity, and she's staring directly into a camera because she knows that's where the audience is.
Yeah.
And when I read this, I was like, no, she didn't. That's made up. She pulled out a little cardboard butterfly, held it up to the camera, and it was the set list of her upcoming tour that she's about to do.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I kid you not. So if you Google, John, if you've got Google in front of you, just Google Katy Perry space set list butterfly, and you'll go, that can't have really happened. That can't have really happened. She can't have.
There it is. She's got. I don't know any of these songs, obviously. Hot and Cold, Last Friday Night. I know that one. I Kissed a Girl. Love it. Wow. Fantastic. Meanwhile, and then she's like, it was the most profound experience of my life. And you think, well, if that was the case, you would have just shut up and sat there and forgotten about cameras. But it shows, I think it's inspiring because it shows you, it's inspiring in a way that she didn't intend, not so much for women and girls, but for people who worry that the ego is not resilient. Well, you can literally be in the blackness of the universe and your narcissism can be completely intact. So just bear that in mind.
I think the glass ceiling that was broken was that for decades, it's been exclusively the domain of male astronauts to reveal their upcoming tour set lists on space stations and space shuttles. Yeah. And women have been saying, hey, can we get up there and can we show you the irrelevant pop hits that we're going to perform at our tour that isn't selling very well? And men have said, you lot are so hysterical. There's no way we can let you up there to show off your set lists for your upcoming irrelevant and poorly selling tour. You guys, you would just,
with a set list.
You cannot be trusted with a set list. You wouldn't be able, absolutely wouldn't be able to even kind of negotiate the mechanics of getting it out of your pocket because your spatial awareness isn't the same as ours. And they used to laugh and drink scotch.
That's right.
And Katie's got up there and gone, look at this. You just watch me pull this little butterfly. And girls back home finally realize, like, we told you guys all along that we can promote a tour in space, but you didn't believe us.
Didn't believe it. Yeah, I remember during the 1960s US-Soviet space race, it was just a succession of 60s artists revealing set lists to audiences at home. You had the Beatles up there. You had Buddy Holly.
And famously, Joan Baez had begged to get up there, and they were just like, "Are you out of your mind? Like,
exactly.
women are so dumb. There's no way they'll be able to do this."
Yeah,
and it took until now.
You'll lose the set list in your purse, and by the time you find it, you'll be back splashed down.
It'll be covered in lipstick and mascara and all manner of female things that guys there's no way you could do it. And the smartest woman ever, Katy Perry, has got up there and she's pulled out a little butterfly. I got some lovely Gayle King quotes here as well.
Please.
King, she said, "I'm so proud of me right now."
Great.
Again, another quote that when
Beautiful.
they read that in the history books, when the kids of 100 years read about how LA was set on fire and the entire city was razed, and the history teacher says, "Do you know that in the months leading up to that billionaire Oprah Winfrey's best friend, who went to space, King, said, 'I'm so proud of me right now,'" and the kids would go, "She wouldn't have said that. That's poking the bear."
Exactly. That's right. And the history teacher would say, it's probably not true that Marie Antoinette literally said, "Let them eat cake." But what we do know is that it is true that Gayle King said, "I'm so proud of me." And, that in the cycles of history, those two things had very similar effects. And, because that was days before the Hollywood sign was blown up and, people were roaming. Bands of guerrillas went through Beverly Hills, burning it to the ground.
She said also, in responding to the criticism, Gayle said, "We've had some cranky Yankees and haters. I've heard you and I'm not going to let you. I'm not going to let you steal our joy." Boy, again, what I would also like to take away from Hollyweird is the word joy. If I said, "You don't get to use the word joy anymore," boy, would they have to be back at that drawing board for. I'm not going to let you steal our joy, but most people are really excited and cheering us on and realize what this mission means to young women, young girls, and boys too. She should have said femboys. She should have said young women, young girls, and femboys too. Again, like, I'm just like, I've never thought that women couldn't go to space, but apparently they couldn't. And now, thank you, Katie.
And if you
thank you, Gayle.
If you were a young girl that thought maybe women can't be astronauts, this in no way resolves that question, because nobody on there that was a celebrity, at least, was an astronaut. And going into space, or perhaps more accurately, going to the upper level of the atmosphere for 11 minutes. That's not great. I could probably do that without any training and still be fine.
Yeah. I wonder.
Did they get training? I wonder.
Yeah. I can't expect that. If they did, I've looked into Katy Perry's eyes, and I can't imagine that she'd retain a great amount of space training.
No.
Anyway, she would have said, "Where does the butterfly set list go in all of this?"
Exactly.
In all of this training.
Yeah. Do set lists? Can people still read set lists in space? Or does the human eye react differently to script? Yeah, I mean, what would have perhaps eased some of the tension, I think, and obviously, would have been sad in some respects, but I think it would have, you've got this kind of groundswell of angst, as I said, in many developed countries that are experiencing unprecedented wealth inequality, and wondering maybe these people should pay more tax, etc. And I think for that trip to have ended in a kind of spectacular explosion would have given a lot of comfort to those people, and probably staved off the revolution by 50 years, you know?
Did you see?
Just
did you see
sacrifice
the,
half a dozen.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, that probably maybe that would have been like super 4D chess from Bezos. If he was like, "There's too much, there's too much anger and not enough sympathy towards elites right now. So what I'll do is I'll send the most elite celebrities up into space on a rocket that's rigged with a bomb."
Yeah.
And then it will explode and everyone will go, "Don't be mean to celebrities. Remember when Katy Perry was incinerated in space?"
Exactly. He said it's been too long since that flight with the Big Bopper and Buddy Holly and Otis Redding went down. That was the last time celebrity aeronautical disaster led to public sympathy, and that was a generation or two ago. So time for that to happen again. Because, you know, my underground lair in New Zealand and my private army is I'm still putting the finishing touches on that. I'm going to need a couple of years before I can survive the backlash, the violent global backlash against the oligarchy. So let's just buy some time.
I do love the fact that, in particular, I think Katy Perry was just. I just love the fact that just Bezos totally used her. Like Bezos knew this is gonna, like, she's already slipping into. I mean, if you put like Katy Perry's name
She's
into
a weird
TikTok
choice,
search,
isn't she? Like, why would Bezos?
Very weird, a very weird choice. Like they could have sent up like a younger,
Doja Cat.
You know, you could have sent like Doja Cat,
Dua Lipa.
Yeah, you could have sent Dua Lipa up there. But Katy Perry is somebody who's really fallen out of favor with the public.
Yeah.
But she's still able to obviously generate headlines. And I think you would have known, like if somebody had said, "Oh, they're going to, like Jeff Bezos is going to send Katy Perry into space," I would have said, "Well, I know exactly how that's going to go."
Yeah.
And I reckon Jeff Bezos and his team did as well. But you know who fucking didn't? Katy Perry.
Yeah, that's right. She did not. He just thought, yeah, it's all good. It's all good because everyone remembers SpaceX, and people need to remember Blue Origin.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's taken up the headlines for the entire week, and the one with William Shatner didn't. Like that was one that was viewed more positively. It was, we've sent a whole bunch of people up into space, and one's from Star Trek, and he's in his 90s and isn't
that was
amazing.
Cool,
and I was like, I've sort of vaguely heard of that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about it. And now the entire week has been free media for Blue Origin. And
all of it negative, but none of it probably resulting in real backlash, which would be like a drop in ticket sales.
But the really interesting thing about Blue Origin is, we've spoken about this a bit before, John, because I come from a marketing background. The percentage, like you get the awareness, which is, this is called like the top of the funnel.
Right.
And basically everybody who is aware of the thing that happens, right? They are at the top of the funnel. But even with regular products, it's like 1 to 2% of people that are aware of the thing end up actually buying the thing.
Yeah.
So if you have 100 people and you're selling fucking dish soap and you do a dish soap ad, you're lucky if like 3 of the 100 people who become aware of the dish soap through the ad buy the dish soap at the end. So it's kind of, it's like a scale thing.
Especially when the dish soap cost you a couple of $100,000.
Well, this is the thing. So like from Bezos's perspective, he's not trying to get like 1 or 2% of they're not banking on 1 or 2% of the people who are aware of this taking a Blue Origin flight.
Yeah.
They're talking about fractions of a percentage of people who become aware of Blue Origin.
Yeah.
So, and as I say, like the type of people who that is are not the type of people who are going to be concerned about the negative publicity around wealthy people. So it's like, it's perfect because he's like, man, you know what? The type of people who have $150,000 and, you know, this this has gotten so much attention. So many fucking millions, potentially like 1 billion people heard about this. And they're really going to have shifted the amount of people from the top of the funnel. They're really going to funnel down a whole bunch of people with 150 grand. Because again, it's just like a scale thing.
Yeah. And none of them, I mean, many of them are so wealthy and kind of living in their own stratified universe to the point where they don't need anyone to know who they are. And in fact, it's much better if nobody does. So it'll be like people that we've not heard of who are, you know, sheiks and oligarchs and people who are kind of tech billionaires from the global south who want to kind of go up in space for 11 minutes, who will be buying tickets, I imagine. But
exactly. So I've just
I wonder no, go.
I was just gonna say you can. So this is the thing, and this might surprise you. I've gone to blueorigin.com. And the website says, book your flight, purchase a window seat on a life-changing space flight. So you can right now sign up for a Blue Origin flight. I acknowledge Blue Origin will collect. You have to tick 2 things. Please click. This is quite an interesting form. I have it because one of the things is the thing you always click, and one of the things is one of the things you rarely click. Please confirm your consent to our privacy policy. Tick. Second tick, I acknowledge Blue Origin will collect 150,000 USD fully refundable deposit to begin the order process. So I haven't seen that tick box on an internet web form before. But the question will be, how many people signed up for this week? That will have been the metric by which the marketing team that sent the powerful women to space, the team will have said, we send the powerful women to space, we chill. It doesn't matter what metrics come back except how many people signed up on the website. And of course, they're not going to tell us. No. But I am willing to bet that this website got a lot of action this week. And I reckon that marketing team is high-fiving each other because I reckon a lot of people said, I'll give you $150,000 because Katy Perry had a seller's no buff up there.
Do we assume that fully refundable deposit, do we assume therefore that the overall sum that you would have to pay is much greater? Perhaps like
that is a good question.
Because I guess so. The refundable deposit would be to start the process, but then I guess they would say, okay, further charges, maybe it's more in the, because it does seem cheap to me, to be honest. Like I wouldn't be crazy to me if someone said, well, we're going to space, it's going to cost you $1 million.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably not. I mean, you know, potentially for the first few years, just to get the whole thing rolling, they might take a loss on it. You know, they might just fund, like Uber, they might just fund, they might get like the Saudi sovereign wealth fund to subsidize a bunch of these, and you get to go up there for $150,000. Until you've captured the market, until you've monopolized and beaten out all your competition, and then anybody who wants to take a space flight has to go with Blue Origin, and then it goes up to $1 million. But it's a good question. They wouldn't say how much the thing had cost. I don't believe. Because the media said, hey, how much did it cost to send Oprah's best friend to space? And they said, none of your fucking business.
Yeah. How much, as someone said to me, shout out to Locke, said, you know, how much would it cost to send Katy Perry to Venus on a one-way trip? Because I'm sure we could crowdfund Bezos to do that.
Well, John, that's been the Blue Origin Celebrity Girl Power Space episode that I've been waiting to do.
Yeah.
For so long. And I've really enjoyed it. And I do like California Girls by Katy Perry. That's probably my favorite Katy Perry song.
Yeah.
But I do dislike most other things about her besides California Girls.
I like I Kissed a Girl because
really?
No.
That was the first I think it was her first single.
I'll tell you what I do like is that song I Kissed a Girl from the 90s. I think it's maybe Melissa Etheridge, is it? Or someone else? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I do like that song
girl,
too. Yeah.
Not,
I always remember
I kissed a girl and I like that.
Yeah, it's got the line in it. It's got the line in it that goes, dumb as a box of hammers, but he's such a handsome guy. Yeah, and I looked at you, yeah, truth in your eyes, but it only lasted a little while. And then I felt your hand above my knee, and we laughed at the world. Saying never, you can have their diamonds and we'll have our pearls.
Jill
I kissed a
Sobule.
girl.
I don't know who that is.
She has another song that I really like, Joseph. Yeah.
Her lips were sweet. She was also kissing me, I think. And then Katy Perry ripped that off and made it I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It. The taste of her Chevy Chase stick. I never understood what that line meant.
It's a much more for the male gaze version, the Katy Perry one, as opposed to the Jill Sobule one.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's much more like two girls acting up at a club because they're a bit emotionally immature.
John, do you want to take us out of the show?
Guys, thank you for joining us on this trip up to the stratosphere, not just in spatial terms, but also I think in socioeconomic terms. The top of the world, the top of the top 1%, going to the top 1% of the atmosphere. What a wonderful moment it is. So that's good. What we call Let Them Eat Space. That's what we call Splagburger with the lot. We hope you enjoyed it, and we can't wait to see you next week.
Have the podcast.